What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your daily creative reading for September 6th. We are going to hop on in here and see where this day takes us with this Hero's Journey spread. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives? And apologies for the slight delay in this getting out. I was getting caught up on rest and just letting my body sleep, which has been kind of important. So, yeah, it's been good. So I appreciate your patience with today's being a little bit later. So thank you for that. Whoop. Let's see what we got here. With love. And more with love. Okay. Dearest you, as you think, so you will experience life. Thoughts are that powerful, and they need minding. Let the unruly, chaotic ones settle down so they serve you or get released instead of wreaking havoc. These thoughts arise when connected to the energy of fear and often masquerade as truth, yet the real truth is that essentially all is well. Of course, you have thoughts that are positive, strong, organized, accepting, creative, open, and so on. Those are the ones we want you to keep thinking, and they have a less frantic quality. They're stimulating in a good way and don't get away from you. How do you keep an inner eye on your thoughts? Meditate and leave judgment out of the mix. Everyone has those fearful thoughts. Love them, love yourself, and then choose the thoughts you want the world to reflect back. Life is not as hard as you think. Loving you so much. And I've been diving into more science of mind things and along with A Course in Miracles, as always, just returning to that over and over. But just looking at the sort of the architecture of our thoughts and how our thoughts shape things, and really diving into patterns of thinking and things like that. So that's part of what rest has encompassed and incorporated. And what better time than, a pre-shadow Mercury retrograde to do that and really get into the details of that, sort of capitalizing on the Virgo energy, right? So Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for September 6th, please? Okay, the call. Ooh, I feel like the call is kind of, I just saw these two on the bottom. Okay, you want them out. I feel like the call is doing conflict differently, right? We have the Five of Swords, which is that idea of win at all costs, but also not just win at all costs, but I feel like this particular card, in the way it's done here, captures the essence of why it is that we want to do something different, why it is that we want new, why it is that we would, move towards a different way of doing conflict, right? So we have the Ace of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. This says to me that there's a new way of doing things. Might take more time, because this is the other thing. This is like quick wins, right? Quick wins that, there are other cards that would indicate cutting corners, but Five of Swords in a way does that, because there's a bigger concern with winning, or something to do with like stroking your ego and being right, or, staying in control. And it's these cards here that I think are indicative of the call being doing something differently, or a new way of doing things, right? A new way of doing things, because you have there's something that is of value, or that you're valuing differently at this time. Yeah, the Nine of Swords, Four of Swords, Seven of Swords. I feel like this is the sort of the refusal. So on the hero's journey, there's the call, the refusal. And I feel like part of this sort of an aspect of this refusal is you were kind of, well, the way that this is coming through is that there's a lot of taking time from yourself, like robbing yourself of joy, taking away your opportunities for rest, rejuvenation, clear thinking, perception that might help you, right? And I feel like this is sort of seeing the mind for what for the way it's been showing up. And I feel like the refusal was, in a way, I feel as though the refusal was not looking at thoughts and looking to external situations in order to say, well, this is what this means. And, this means, such and such thing, because we assume the presence of things in our lives, like, job opportunities, or, friends, partners, results from whatever it is that we're working on. Those things are so tied to stuff that we can't really map out the easiest. We can generally say that there's a reliable system, that if you do A, then B, C, and D might happen, 444 on the time. But there's a different way that perception is helping you to shape your thoughts right now. And I think that the refusal was, at one point, It's like there was this refusal, like, no, I have to worry about this. I have to, and this is what it resulted in, right? And it was like turning away from rest. It was turning away from a pause. And instead it was like trying to figure it all out yourself, but the grace is somewhere higher, right? So it's like elevating, I'm hearing like elevating the dialogue with yourself. Excuse me. And then the Page of Swords. I feel like this is sort of this, I'm almost like fact finding. Like, that's what this feels like. It feels a little bit like that was part of the refusal. Like, you tried to do things on your own, but then there's a way that you're getting information. All of it is useful. All of it is useful. But the next leg of your journey is going to require something different. And I feel like a lot of what's interesting is that it's all swords as to where you are or were, right, on this hero's journey. And the shift it alludes to pentacles. There's a pentacularity. I've used that word before, but it's not really a word. But there's a pentacularity to it, that it's like things are shifting and moving, perhaps not as quickly as you would like, but you feel it. You feel it. And I think you have to hang on to that quite. It's almost like you have to be unreasonable about your optimism at different times. And people will try to undercut it, and they might say that's foolish. But honestly, like, it's your choice. Which one do you want to experience? Super defensiveness where everything is hard and you're alone, or connection and relationship, not just relationship romantically, but like, this is the depth of connection. This is also a choice card, right? So what do you choose? Being angry and frustrated and upset and feeling burdened, or something that flows a little bit more freely, right? So it's just an aside. Spirit, what messages, could become a tower if it goes unchecked? Interesting. The way that this is coming through is you have to discern the difference between emotional fulfillment and what you might have told yourself emotional fulfillment was. And I feel like that's the tower. The reason being is we have the 5 and 7 of swords, telling the story alongside the 9 of swords. So this is saying to me, it's telling me that there's a way that you may have sort of lied to yourself about what happiness was. I get the impression, though, that you're finding that now, but it's like, don't fall into old habits, thought patterns, that kind of idea, because there's new that's trying to break through. And retrogrades are a good time to take stock, reassemble resources, just to reflect, right? 2 of Swords, a lot of swords energy here. Wow. Knight of Swords. Yeah, your protagonist is going within, right? It's a card of indecision, yes, but on the other hand, it's going within. And I think that the going within here, the really important part, is that you may feel stalled or slowed down, but I feel like you don't want to rush this part, right? This is like alluding to what's to come. And there's this rich, I almost want to say fertility here, but creativity, seeds of ideas, making sure the process is right. And that it fits, right? That people fit you, jobs fit you, homes. It's that kind of idea, right? Where all of the big things need to fit. And if they don't, it's not about forcing them and making them. It's about knowing what to release and move towards, right? And it's sort of decisive action on the one hand, but I feel like the reason why this could go against your best interests, this energy here in the antagonist position, is because there's a sort of emotional fulfillment that you might be detaching from or not attached to in a way that nourishes you, right? So like what people do you connect with? What activities are you doing to fill up your cup, right? Like, how are you taking care of yourself? And not just in a way of like, I'm feeding myself these foods. What are you feeding your mind, right? We tend to think of the mind as like the lesser of emotions, but they're all important, right? They're all important. They're all equally impactful. And I think that if you allow your mind to be unconscious and to be in that unconscious thinking place, what ends up happening is you find that your emotions follow suit just as unconsciously. So it's almost like trusting yourself again. It's like trusting yourself again, not just your instincts, but like your truth, like who you are. And trusting that where you are is where you need to be. Yeah, trusting that where you are is where you need to be. Let me do this here. There we go. Queen of Swords, 4 of Cups, 3 of Cups. This is interestingly showing up as the challenge. It could be almost a little bit of like feeling left out, feeling like you don't belong, like you're kind of a misfit, and misfit's such a funny word because I have typically owned it. Like our differences make us exactly what we are, right? Like a lot of people would be like upset about, well, I don't even care. Not upset, I don't know, but like they would wonder why I was doing tarot or was so interested in astrology and all of those things, but it's really just part of who I am, right? So it doesn't really matter. Like I'm willing to let that flag fly. Like I love theory just as much as this. And I think that anyone that tries to talk you out of that is not trying to talk you out of it from a place of care or sincerity, especially if it's part of who you are, right? And I almost feel like there's this way that you're connecting to a truth. But again, it has to be, there's a lot of thought. Like there has to be something grounded here. There needs to be something that grounds it because we have the Queen of Swords. And it's almost like emotions get like in a little bit. Like they just squeak in. They squeak in because clarity feels more comfortable than perhaps the uncertainty of emotional fulfillment, right? Clarity, 11:11 on the time. Clarity feels more comfortable because you can see everything. Emotions tend to leave things up in the air, right? This matters so much to me. What about, does it matter to that person? Or can I trust them? Can I trust this process? And it's just about letting go. But I feel like that has something to do with emotions here. There's no Emperor card per se, but there are a lot of minor arcana that would indicate to me that there's a way that you're kind of prioritizing how to think, which is a good thing, right? It's like knowing how to think about something helps you to feel constructively about it so that you're not putting yourself in a position of discord or upset unnecessarily, right? Ooh, those candles flickered a lot. Okay. Whoa. We have so many cards flying out. So one of the things, this is what you're being awakened to here. And the Hanged Man is the sort of quintessential awakened to card. There's like an enlightenment here that's happening. And I feel like you're being awakened to a newfound sense of passion. And I think what's interesting is the biggest leaps that I've ever taken in my life, I had no idea how it would turn out. You know, I talk about doing grad school a lot because it was just such a crucial and I guess pivotal time in my life. But I kept thinking like I didn't know how it would turn out. I just knew that for the next 2 years I would be doing something anyway. So I might as well do something that gives back to community and helps me to get a second chance at a degree, right? So it was that kind of thought process. And I didn't know how my schedule would work out with work. Because they tended to, like, there's some amenability, but not always because of business needs and all of that stuff. So it was sort of, how is this going to work out? How is this going to turn out? And I had no idea, but I did it anyway, right? I received an invite last night for an event in Toronto coming up, and I said yes, and my day ends at 6 p.m. and the event starts at 6:30. So I was like, how am I going to do this? And I'm like, no, you know what? It's just a half hour. It's fine, right? So it's these things where we have to remind ourselves that there's little details that we don't need to know, and it's about connecting to what feels right for you. And that has started to get louder in the past couple of days and weeks for me. But yeah, the star, this is really what that's about, though. It's like reconnecting. This is part of that awakening, I feel. Wow. And the Death card too, dang. And the Magician, what? And the Sun, there's the Emperor. Okay, so what I'm getting from this, oh my gosh, these are really great cards. I feel like, okay, so I'll just show you what I see here. Okay, this is just an aside, not to throw in the kitchen sink, but this is really what we're talking about, right? You have the Star, there's like hope and healing because there's a transformation that's been taking place or is taking place where you're trusting in your emotions more than your thoughts about things because you're aligning your thoughts and understanding what they're there to do. And that's what's helping you to manifest something really beautiful and happy making for yourself. And the kind of happiness it's not about what you need to control. It's not about what you can't put your trust in because things are going to start to move quickly and you're going to have to rely a lot on that, this sort of creative discernment, creative intuition in order to know what is most important to you and what isn't. Okay. And that's what's going to be the balance that helps you to birth whatever it is that you're working on. These were all at the bottom, right? And it's just like right away it was coming through. So I feel as though it's like this is what you're kind of waking up to. That little page has so much support behind it. Like this little page of wands here has so much support behind it that was at the bottom of the deck. And I feel like, again, we just have this page of cups. It's very small. These are not just, these might be small ideas, small inclinations towards things, but there's something that you're getting the ball rolling with here. There's something that's moving. Eight of Wands, yeah, there's something that's moving. And the main lesson here is I almost feel like the Eight of Wands is telling me with this particular spread, this is like the main lesson that you're getting from this day, from this energy, is that there's something to be said for getting out of your own way. Queen of Wands and Eight of Wands, yeah, there's like getting out of your own way, because you know more than you think you do, but you have to get out of your own way in order to see it. And it's almost like this beholding your fire, right? Being able to see that, but you also have to be able to trust in it as well. So I won't clarify too heavily because there's a lot out here. So I'll just do some small clarifiers here. Spirit, can you? Okay. The cards are very chatty. So we have the Queen of Pentacles. I feel like this is this is a little bit of some self-care that you might be working on or doing. Queen of Pentacles doesn't tend to mean that. It also means that you have, this, it reminds me of the Magician in that you have everything that you need. Like this is a well-stocked kitchen. This is a well-stocked art cabinet. This is, having all your paints ready to go. This is having, your notes for writing. Like this is like, there's a readiness here. And that's where this pentacle energy is coming in quite heavily on the end of this. So it almost describes like this sort of hero's journey that you're on today or this week or in this energy is really, it's telling me a lot about the wisdom that you have within you. And that sounds so, the banality. I feel like there's a generality to that can disconnect you from what it means for you. But what it means is that, no, let me open the door. My cat's out there meowing. She's chirping away. She was. She ran away. Yeah. I just feel like this is like reconnecting you to a core part of yourself. It's like you had it in you, but there's like a serious overthinking. Like the amount of swords here, it's like thoughts, and then emotion like pokes in a little bit, like bloop, like it just this little, I'm seeing water with like a food coloring drop in it that starts to change the whole color of the water. But it was just like, it wasn't, it either wasn't happening fast enough or it wasn't happening the way you thought it would, something along those lines that left you not necessarily trusting yourself. And this feeling of resourced, like it's like resourcefulness. Yeah. Spirit, can you tell me more about this, shift from Five of Swords to the Pentacle energy here and getting past ourselves? Page of Swords. Page of Swords, Page of Wands, Knight of Wands. I feel like, what's so fascinating about this? So we have the Page of Swords, and then we have the Page of Wands, and then we have the Knight of Wands, and the King of Swords, and the King of Wands. So it's almost like your passion and it's like, what this shift does, and like, I want to say releasing control, but I almost feel like this is less about control and more about trusting yourself that you know enough, right? That you know enough. Because the page energy is like curiosity. It's a learning card, right? Like that's the student. And I almost feel like you have to let your energy mature. You have to let your creativity mature. Your thoughts are maturing in a way. And by maturity, I don't mean, versus immaturity. I'm just talking about they need to progress on their own. And 1919 on the time. It's like there's this progression where you kind of boss up in how you think about others, yourself, your ideas, what you have to offer. Your ambition, I think, levels up a little bit too. Because you're dreaming a bit bigger. The King of Swords and the King of Wands are not cards of like, breadcrumbing yourself, right? They're not cards of like gaslighting yourself. They are very clear assessors and actors just meaning not in terms of like stages and Hollywood. It's more about actors as in doers, right? This is Mars energy, and I really feel that energy here. Yeah, there's something. This is, to me, this aspect of like emotional fulfillment that you might have been denying yourself before, or you were kind of like kidding yourself about. I feel like there's a way that you're letting in what actually matters to you, what's actually important, right? I also feel too like there may be some way that you felt unqualified. With the Five of Swords and Seven of Swords, to me reads like imposter syndrome, and I feel like this is bossing up the level of your thoughts. It's about saying, no, I know enough. I don't need to find more information about what to do or how. I know enough. I just need to trust myself enough and to trust myself more. And that's where it's like it's just such an interesting, like almost all of the swords are here. You have the Five of Swords, and then we did see the Ace of Swords. So Ace, 2, we have the 4, 5, Knight of Swords, Queen of Swords. So there's like, it's not to be like, look at all these things. But what I'm saying here is pay attention to the times you feel like you don't measure up to what you think someone should be in order to participate in something. Be mindful of the times where people will try to undercut you, right? And undercut you just meaning like they will try to make you feel less than, because if you are enough, it means that what it is in them will then be triggered, because if they feel that you're not enough, or that you're not sufficient to play a whatever part, decide that that's an okay thought process for them to have, but just do you. Do you, because I was scrolling through Instagram last night, just kind of and I found this quote by Deepak Chopra. I can't remember when it was posted. It just sort of popped up in my feed before I kind of turned my phone off for the night. And it said something along the lines of like, when you don't create in the world, you deny everyone the opportunity to get to know your work and to get to know you. And that's sort of an abundance piece. I saved a screenshot of it. Let me read it here. So when you express your unique talents and use them in the service of humanity, you create abundance in your life and the lives of others. And that's from Deepak Chopra's page. So it's just understanding that dynamic here as well. And I feel like that's what this kind of is. Like the Justice card doesn't scream abundance to me. The Ace of Cups does, specifically because there's this sort of uprooting of old patterns and then kind of anchoring in something more cup-centric, more pentacle and wand-centric. Because I feel like it's like you've been around the sword, block so many times. Spirit, can you please clarify this Page of Swords and the Two of Swords, please? Three of Pentacles. You might need to... what's coming through here is that there's not... It's like there's a lot of thinking alone, right? Thinking alone, as opposed to kind of bringing thoughts, creative ideas, projects to groups with others, to collaborating with them in a way that takes them outside of you. So it becomes less of a sword, and it becomes a pentacle that then can be shared in. And that's really what that shared abundance is about. And I feel like that's not just something that you're inclined to value here. I feel like that's a shift that's helping you access something completely different. And where the antagonist was the Knight of Swords, in that energy of... kind of missing things. Like I almost got this fear of like missing things that were really important. I feel like whatever it is that you may feel like you missed something, but the past is the past, and it's not that it can't be changed, because if we change our minds about it, then it changes too. And what fundamentally happened doesn't change, but what does happen is you get greater access to I feel like your emotions. You get greater access to your emotions, because to think limiting thoughts about the past where you don't allow yourself forgiveness, where you don't allow yourself to express the depth of all that's available to you around a memory, an experience, it doesn't just limit you. It doesn't just limit you. It really throws you up in your head. It throws you in your head significantly. So let's pull an affirmation card here. Let's see where this takes us. Wow. Okay. I got 3. Aren't we lucky? We got 3. I'm willing to let love in. I almost feel like that's this 3 of Pentacles. It's not a cup, but I feel like I'm willing to let love in. May come in the form of shared work. I'm not sure, but and also creative collaborations. That could be it too. Building a foundation with other people, but that is possibly how love gets in. It could come from working with other people, but I think the big thing here is that it might remind you of how good it feels to build something with someone. And if not 2525 on the time, if not remind you of that, I think it could serve the purpose of connecting you to something bigger than yourself. And that's really what relationship, long-term relationship and relationship building is, right? That's what it is. So open your arms wide and say, I'm willing to let love in. It is safe to let love in. Repeat it 3 times. Okay, I create my future today. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. And it's kind of like, I get that this 3 of Pentacles is pretty pivotal as well. Like, I feel like this is a really crucial sort of turning point. So it is safe to ask for help. Yeah, that's the 3 of Pentacles, right? And when we think about asking for help, sometimes it doesn't look like, hey, I need, people do this or used to do this. Like, I need a cup of sugar. I need eggs. I need bread, blah, blah, blah. Like those types of things, like just neighborly things. But what happens when it's safe to ask for help, right? I know I have friendships where I can say to my friends, I just need to vent about this for a minute or two. Sometimes it takes longer because there's, just needing to let it out. But it's also, it's not just when you draw on things. I think it's also, don't be afraid to ask for help and ask spirit for guidance as well. This isn't just about the people around you, but I think the willingness to let love in, the willingness to let your good in also comes from co-conspiring with spirit and the universe as well, right? And you don't have to have everything figured out right away. Sometimes it's just something comes in that day that's enjoyable, that's pleasant, that's a little breadcrumb on the trail, right? So when you fear you can't do it all by yourself, maybe it's a sign you don't have to. When you stop trying to do it all by yourself, help appears. Yeah, so let me just read this one here. So this closing of the reading with love. Dearest you, did you know that when you stop fighting and accept everything exactly as it is right now, miracles start to happen? There's a freedom in this kind of radical acceptance. Let go of unrealistic expectations and see things as they really are, not how you'd like them to be. You'll be surprised at how everything seems to fall into place. When you refuse to accept things, life gets messy, you act messy, and your world stays in chaos, tension, and disarray. But don't try to force change or manipulate circumstances. Instead, learn about what's in front of you and face it with your eyes fully open. Then you can decide, stay or go, sink or swim, move or stay still. Acceptance is the key to freedom and opens the door to the real opportunities waiting to be discovered. Set yourself and others free. So I think it's a little bit about setting yourself free here. It's like mental prisons that you created for yourself. And honestly, one of the things that prison abolition work has taught me is how we rely so heavily on punishment as a way of making right or wrong, as opposed to something more restorative in terms of justice, not just towards ourselves, but towards others too. And I feel like that might be what this means here. Like you're kind of breaking out of these mental traps and prisons that you created for yourself. And the thing to keep in mind is that in order to believe in that kind of thought process for yourself, you also have to believe that that's what other people deserve too, that they deserve punishment. And when you believe that other people do, then you believe that you do as well. And that's sort of moving away from that entire structure where there's restorative justice options available. This is taking us down a little bit of an activism hole, but still I say that, this here, it's almost like a shift from punishing yourself into allowing passion in. And, one of the things that I've been doing lately is listening more to, audio from the Empower You app by Hay House. And again, not an ad. It's not. I just really enjoy the app. And I'm finding that, listening to Louise Hay, it's like, I don't know. I read the book so many times, but there's a different flavor to it now. And one of the things that I heard the other day was that guilt seeks punishment. So if you feel like you're guilty, that's what it's almost like these swords have been thoughts that have been trying to, you've worked so hard to justify why you're guilty that all that you might have experienced in one area is like, it feels like punishment, or you might have been punishing yourself with overthinking, or I'm getting this like rerouting things, like it's like your good would be like right here and you'd be like "Bleh," and then like reroute around it, but it, because it's like it was this resonance that wasn't recognizable. But I feel like that, again, that's shifting. um but that's where all these thoughts, it's like the swords are almost like this punishment, like the punishment of indecision, not believing that there's a peaceful way through something, or if not peaceful, like, because that's pretty nebulous, I think. And peace means something different to everybody. Like we can have shared traits and things like that, but there's a difference there. And then we have this sort of like feeling so bad that you had to like, you felt like you had to give parts of yourself away with the Seven of Swords, that you sort of denied yourself rest and threw yourself into this need to do it all yourself. But it's not even doing it all yourself. It's like Spirit's like right there saying, let me help you. And there was a way that it's almost like it became a badge of honor to have all the information figured out yourself. And then the Two of Swords here is showing me this sort of like, it's like needing to go within, but there's sort of this preoccupation with what's outside of you still. The Queen of Swords came out, and so that tells me that there's a shift away from this way of being and thinking. We then had the Page of Swords and the King of Swords, so repeating energy here, right? But this is where you're elevating your thoughts and your thought processes and the ways that you've been allowing yourself to experience your good. So let that in. But on that note, this is what I've got for you for today, my friends. So thank you so much for watching. If this resonated, give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you're not already. If you are joining me from the subscriber base that I have, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.